What's up, everyone? I'm trying to keep my channel active, so I'm going to do another fragrance review thing. I'm going to try to cover just a couple in this video. I'm going to do the two most popular from the Frapin house, 1270 and Luministe, and then I'll do a few other from Frapin in another video. I'm going to do 1270 and Luministe first because, yeah, they're the most popular. They get the most hype, and not even just from the house, but the fragrance community in general. They just tend to get a lot of love. So I'm going to give you my hype buster, if I believe it or not. So my kind of impression review thing. And if I sound a little sarcastic, maybe, when I use the word boozy, it's just because I don't really like the word, but I know the fragrance community uses it, so I'm rolling with it. So if there's a little bit of I don't know, if I sound a little weird when I say that, I guess. So I'm going to do 1270 first because that is the one I thought I would like myself the most from them. It's compared to Pure Malt a lot, which I like, and Dolce & Gabbana the One, which is one of my favorite fragrances of all time, years and years later, and hundreds of fragrances later. I still think that's amazing. So a niche version of that, you know, that's what a lot of people call it. So I thought it was going to be awesome. And just to say though, I don't think it smells like Pure Malt, and I don't think it smells like Dolce & Gabbana the One. So I would not blind buy it if you like those fragrances based on other people saying that, because I don't think it smells anything like them. If I had to say, if like a gun was to my head, the One or Pure Malt, I guess it would smell more like Pure Malt. But again, I wouldn't say that it particularly smells like either of them. So let's get into some of the notes for 1270. We have orange at the top, with resin, cocoa, coffee, and tonka bean, pineapple and dried plum. In the middle we have lime blossom or linden blossom, spices, flowers, hazelnut, and more dried fruits. And at the base we have woodsy notes, kayak wood, if I said that right, white honey, and vanilla. Well, just from the notes, I think it seems pretty awesome, right? And what I get out of it, though, the top is, and of course, all these fragrances from Frapin are supposed to be boozy, but some of these fragrances, I don't think calling them boozy would actually be accurate because there's just too much of an alcohol smell. Like, I don't think you could say that some of these fragrances have the same, if you're saying Pure Malt is a boozy fragrance, I don't think a lot of these you could say are boozy because it's just not a strong enough word, because some of these fragrances from Frapin definitely have a strong just alcohol period smell. So I don't think calling some of them boozy would be correct. But anyway, the top of this fragrance is actually really nice, and you know, there's a lot of fruits. I get a lot of that plum, and you know, there's a lot of dried fruits, but so it's kind of dry, but there's that pineapple, which is like really crisp and adds like a little zest to it at the beginning, specifically at the beginning, because that leaves pretty fast. That gives it like a nice contrast to all the more drier fruits. And the alcohol note at this point is pretty far in the background. If you don't take too much of it in when you're smelling too much on yourself, it can make the fruits in it actually smell a little bit juicy, actually. So as long as you don't take in too much of the fragrance at once, and just a little bit of the alcohol, the fruits can smell a little bit juicy. But if you take in too much alcohol, it can definitely get some more of the alcoholish sort of smell, if that makes sense. So it's, the beginning of it is really nice. It's, you know, fruity. It's, you know, there's some of that like cocoa, that a little bit of coffee, you know, the tonka bean. I know a lot of people say it's really a delicious opening, and I don't think it is quite delicious for me, but maybe if I got a little more of the cocoa or the coffee or the tonka bean. But I mean, it's really nice. I do enjoy it a lot. And then when you get to the middle, you know, you start to get a little bit more honey, and the honey is kind of weird because the honey, a lot of times, it's one of the only things that after that crisp pineapple note disappears, the honey is one of the only things that actually tingles your nose from a distance, I think, which is why maybe a lot of people have projection issues with this. And it could be because I think the honey is kind of a warm note, so a lot of warm stuff gets lost in the air, right? And so you get that warm little bits of honey, but then when you get closer, mostly then you get the fruit, and the honey is just like gone, actually. So that's kind of interesting. And I felt a lot of times when I smell this fragrance, it kind of depends on how much you're taking in at once. Like I said at the very beginning, you know, if you don't take in too much at once, it's not too, again, boozy, right? It can be a little bit juicy just because of the little bit of alcohol. And especially once you get into the mid, if you don't take in too much and you just get little bits of honey, and which lasts throughout the whole thing, I think it's really enjoyable as long as you don't get too much. So the mid is nice, and the one thing is that once you get to the bottom is nice, but I've worn this a few times now, and sometimes I get a nice, you know, there's like that, some vanilla, and yeah, the vanilla, the honey, you know, the woodsy kind of stuff, and I get that more kind of deliciousness at the bottom. But sometimes when I've worn it, I've gotten just, because as the fragrance goes on, the alcohol really comes out more and more. And again, I don't think you could call this boozy because the alcohol note is too strong. And sometimes, although they don't smell the same, it kind of reminds me of, the alcohol note reminds me of like By Killian, Straight to Heaven. So sometimes the end of the fragrance can be very like alcoholish smelling. And, you know, sometimes it's not that enjoyable. And it's a very sharp contrast to the beginning, because I think this is definitely a fragrance that you should wear a few times to make sure you like it, because the first few hours can be very misleading towards the end, which can be very alcoholic and kind of oldish smelling, which to get into that point, I know a lot of people say that some people say this is like an amazing compliment getter, you know, one of the best ever. And then you have these random people that say like, oh, well, it smells old, you know. And I think that's because, you know, you gotta, like, the beginning does not smell the same as the opening. Like, I mean, the beginning is like a totally different fragrance in my opinion. So I think it depends on where you're smelling it, because yeah, the opening, you know, all that fruit and stuff, and it's great. That dried plum, I can't think of smelling plum in a lot of fragrances before, you know. Again, as long as you don't take too much in, so a little bit of juiciness to it, you know, and then it tones down, you get little bits of honey here and there, you know what I mean, depending on how much you're taking in at once. And it is pretty nice. I don't always like the dry down, like I said, because sometimes I just get too much alcohol, and it just is too much of a contrast, and I just don't care for it. I will say for performance, I know a lot of people complain about the Frapins, that they have terrible performance and all that kind of stuff. I was not one of them. Longevity on me is 8 to 10 hours each time I've tried it. So, but I will say that now projection though, like I said, is pretty bad though. So longevity, you know, I know some people say it disappears in a few hours. Not me. I mean, I can get 8 to 10 hours on this. But it is pretty much a skin scent. I mean, you got a bit of that crispy zest of the pineapple that goes away really quick. And then you get little bits of honey as the fragrance is drying down and more to tingle your nose, which brings you in, which is, you know, nice. But again, honey's a little bit warmer, so it can get lost in the air, I think. But yeah, for 3-4 hours, maybe if you're lucky 5, I mean, I think it smells really nice. And then the very bottom is just, you know, depending on how much alcohol, it might smell old, so depends, you know what I mean? Whereas Straight to Heaven can smell old too, but I think maybe Straight to Heaven is a little bit more sexiness, maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah, overall, I did like this. I don't think I would buy a bottle of it because it's a little too light, and of course this is pretty expensive. I don't know. Maybe I think it's probably decant worthy. You know what I mean? I did like it to that point, but I can't imagine buying a bottle of it because I don't think it's that great. So I'm gonna say this is a hype buster. I don't think it's that great. So that's me. Decant worthy, but not that. So let's go on to Luministe. Luministe is another very popular fragrance. I mean, and it's another fragrance that some people say has awful longevity, performance, all that kind of stuff. And once again, for this, I can say that I did not have any longevity issues with this. Especially this is supposed to be a summer scent, and you know people love Creed stuff. And assuming you're paying full price for Creed, which I don't recommend generally, I would say, you know what I mean, that's like, you know, this is just as powerful as Creed stuff, I think. I would say that I got about, you know, another 8 to 10 hours maybe out of this. I mean, sometimes a little bit less when I tried it. But again, it's pretty much a skin scent. So again, you know what I mean? I agree when everyone complains about these that the projection is not good, but longevity, these last. But they're skin scent. So let me go into the notes of this. The notes are cardamom, bergamot, lemon, pink pepper, black pepper at the top, or just as pepper, I guess, at the top. The middle notes are nutmeg, thyme, juniper berries, peony. I don't know if I said that right, guys. And the base notes are gin, oak moss, and tonka bean. So, you know, I'm not big on summer scents. I kind of like, you know, I like a lot of the sweeter scents actually myself, so I'm not super horny about summer fresh citrus scents. So I wasn't super crazy about this, but you know, some people are like, oh man, this is like opening a fresh 7-Up or Sprite. This is amazing, yada yada yada, right? You know, people are pretty horny about this one. I mean, I've seen people say this is one of the best fragrances of all time, before the fact that it just doesn't last whatsoever. So what did I get out of this? I've gotten 2 different very things actually. When I first tried this, I was very disappointed. I tried this during the summer and, you know, 80-degree days, and I'm gonna be honest, during the summer, I just got a lemon bomb. Fucking lemon bomb, dude. Like, I was not impressed at all. Maybe a little bit of gin and tonic in the background. And when it dried down, if you see some reviews, they say it kind of resembles Abercrombie and Fitch's Fierce's, yeah, which I could see a little bit of that in the background, but which of course, you know, girls like that too. But I mean, for me personally, I don't give a fuck, honestly. I mean, I was just very underwhelmed. I didn't really think much of it. Again, it did last on me though. I mean, I got about, I think the first time I wore it, I got maybe 8 hours about, you know what I mean? So again, it's a skin scent, but you know, just a lemon bomb, and it honestly reminded me a lot of another fragrance I don't really care for, Green Irish Tweed. You know, Green Irish Tweed has that huge lemon verbena at the opening. You know, it's basically, I know a lot of rich people are probably going to hate me for this, but Green Irish Tweed I think smells a lot like Cool Water, but it's got just a lot more lemon, and it's not as synthetic and like kind of like, I don't really like Cool Water either, but I think Green Irish Tweed is like more wearable, a more wearable Cool Water with a lot of lemon. And when I first wore it, I was like, wow, yeah, this is probably why people like it, because people are super horny about Green Irish Tweed, because I would think my first experience, if you like Green Irish Tweed, you would like this. Lemon bomb on my skin, you know what I mean? Again, not that it smells like Cool Water, but hopefully you get what I'm trying to say. So super disappointed, no Sprite, no fizziness, nothing like that, and I actually thought that maybe I got a bad sample, because I was like, well, you know, maybe my top notes are burnt off. Because, you know, you still have those pepper and spices at the beginning. Maybe that pepper and spice is adding the fizziness to it, right? But I tried it again recently because I'm wearing a sweater and it's been colder here, and I've been trying it in the 60-degree weather, you know, 50, 60. And I'm going to be honest, it smelled so much fucking better during this, like, a little bit cooler weather. And I think it's because I'm assuming the cooler weather gave it a little bit of a tinge, you know what I mean? A little bit of a tingle, like a metal tinge to it. And maybe it's because of the oak moss and the gin, but that little bit of coolness in the air really helped this for me. And I don't think it smells like a 7-Up or a Sprite, the drink itself. I would say this more smells like a can of 7-Up or Sprite that you've already drinking out of, that's cold. I know that sounds kind of strange, but bear with me, right? Again, I think maybe it's because of the oak moss, kind of, because I do get like the oak mossy kind of smell, like a mossy kind of smell, and the coolness in the air. Gin and tonic, because that coolness in the air really kind of, and the mossy feeling, and I know I'm not really good at like picking out notes, so don't like castrate me here, all the rich people that are into collecting fragrances, right? I'm a pauper, so don't hate my shitty nose, but it just smells like it kind of smells like the can that someone, a still cold can, that metal tinge, and just only the mist or like a slight bit of fizz is left, and someone's already drinking the Sprite or the 7-Up. And, you know, some people say that, and the weird thing is that the people that say they get this, the 7-Up Sprite vibe, they're like, oh man, it's the opening that is amazing. Well, when I've gotten this vibe from it, in these colder days, it's lasted all day. I got like 10 hours out of it. I think I wore it, was it 2 days ago or something like that? And of course, it's only a skin scent, so, you know, you're paying like, I don't remember, I'm not sure how much Frapin is, like the full bottle. It's like, is it about 180, 200, I think? Don't quote me, you know, it's pretty expensive. But again, people buy Creed stuff, so I don't know. And Creed stuff isn't super great. Most of it on longevity projection either, so. But yeah, so it was definitely much more interesting and more pleasing to me because I know a lot of people, or I should say, one of the biggest things when I think before I buy like a niche fragrance myself or get like a decant is, does it have like a novelty factor? Do you know what I mean? That makes it a little bit more interesting, that calls to mind something that makes you feel like, oh, well, this is worth it because it smells like this. Do you know what I mean? Like, it kind of like, it tricks you into thinking it's more interesting. But I will say, I felt a little bored while wearing it. It was interesting, and I appreciated it much more in this colder weather, but let's say, so I don't sound hypocritical if this makes sense. I was also wearing Dulces and Fundo, if you know what that is, that creamsicle scent. And that's also, of course, like I think $240, so it's a lot of money. And of course, that's also when I wore that before. I'm like, oh, you know, a lot of the time it does kind of smell boring because it's the same thing, but it just did creamsicle so well. And it's not that I think a creamsicle smells super better than a Sprite or a 7-Up. I mean, they're pretty close, but it just did the creamsicle so well, and it just smelled so good. And I mean, creamsicle just smells okay to me, but it did it so awesomely, dude, like so great. And this smells like a Sprite 7-Up, or can, I should say. Remember that. That is, you need that metal tinge. That's what I got out of it. But it just didn't like, you know, I just wasn't like, wow, this is an amazing can of 7-Up. You know what I mean? Where as Dolces and Fundo, I said that's like an amazing creamsicle. So if that makes sense. So again, this, and I should say when I've worn both of these, I've gotten compliments on them. So, you know, I'm sure they do get lots of compliments. And of course, I'll say for 1270, remember, I do think the end has potential to smell old, though. I'm just saying, but the top and the middle of 1270, and I'm sure, you know, everyone loves citrus scents for whatever reason. So, you know, I got compliments when I wore it, and I would assume you do too. But I didn't like it enough to buy it that I think I'd ever buy a bottle of it. I mean, maybe decant, maybe. You know, because it's kind of a little bit of a novelty factor to it, but yeah. So I'm gonna give these a hype buster. I don't think they're worth the amount of hype they've gotten. I do think, like I said, strangely, I think Luminis did better for me in the colder weather. So go figure that one out. I mean, because in the summer, you know, I agree with the people that don't like it think that it smells like, you know, a lemon balm that's generic as well, and that's definitely what I got out of the summer. It's nothing special when I wore it, but in this colder weather, you know, that little bit of cool factor adding a little bit of a tinge to the fragrance. Man, my nose just instantly translated as that. Whereas during the summer, excuse me, sorry, I didn't get that at all. So, yeah, those are my 2 reviews for Frapin. I'll try to get to the rest another day. So, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, or you don't have to. Or you can. Whatever you want to do. Okay, man.